Hey everyone, I'm Darren, and this is Grey Heat Photography. So if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm Darren, a wedding photographer based in the Caribbean on the island of Trinidad and Tobago. If you're from outside of the Caribbean and you are visiting, of course, check out our website at www.greyheatphotographyweddingandfamily.com. You never know if you're in the Caribbean, right? So, last few weeks, I would have done a review of the Nikon Z5. And at that point, I was comparing it to the Z6, which I had on loan from a friend of mine. And I had also said in that video that I was about to pull the trigger on another Nikon Z camera. I just could not figure out which one I should pull the trigger on. Should I go with Z6 or Z5? Eventually, I settled upon another Z5 to add to my arsenal. So that argument was decided, so I now officially have two Z5s. And as a wedding photographer, I would have explained that the Z6 with a single memory card slot just was not cutting it, and because of my style and all of these things. So that argument was settled, as I said. So of course, my next option, I'm looking at getting probably a Z6, or I'm going to hold out a little bit to see what Nikon drops again, and that camera will become my third camera for my wife, who normally second shoots with me. But because of the pandemic, weddings are a little bit slower than usual this year. We still have weddings, just a little bit slower, and of course they have become a lot smaller. So today's video is about the Z5 and what else is in my camera bag. A few years ago, my wife and I, between the both of us, we had quite a lot of equipment hauling around. And as we got a bit older, we decided we don't necessarily need all of this gear. So at one point we were hauling 4 cameras and about 7 lenses along with strobes and the flashes. And our style, well, my style mostly, would have changed, and I would have realized that I'm actually hauling gear that I don't really use. So I would have had 4 bodies and lenses. So I was using a Tokina 16-28 2.8 that gave me amazing images, and I'm going to put up some of the images now for that. That was a beautiful lens, but I found that I hardly ever used it. In the whole 2 or 3 years that I've owned that lens, I probably used it 5 to 10 times at most. So it was just more of a specialty lens. Then I also had a Tamron 28-75 2.8. Really nice lens, really sharp. I found that the corners were a bit soft, but generally nice lens. And that lens, of course, also kind of remained in my bag quite a lot, except for situations where the bride was getting ready. Then I also had a 70-200 2.8. Once again, I owned that lens probably 7 or 8 years. And after a while, I realized I was not using that lens at all. So, of course, eventually, when we started to change out or go to the Z system, of course, naturally, those were the first lenses to go. And that was simply because I had taken a liking to primes. So, on any wedding, my most used lens would have been an 85mm, a 50mm, and on the wide end, if I were to use my 28-75, I would have used the 35mm end of it. So the camera or the lens was permanently stuck on 35mm. It rarely ever left that area. Good. Then of course I also had a macro 90mm, and that lens Served me well, loved it really nicely, did a lot of amazing shots. I'm going to put a little image of that now. And yeah, it was nice. But once again, not used. So going forward, we decided that, listen, here's what we are both getting younger. So at the tender age of 43, yes, I am 43, and I commonly joke that teaching keeps me young and weddings keep me sane. So during the week I teach, so teaching has a tendency to keep me young. When you have to deal with secondary school students, or if you are in the US, high school students, teachers who are out there, you understand what I'm saying. And I needed weddings, or well, me personally, I needed weddings on a weekend to keep me sane. That's another joke for another time. So going forward, when we started to change out, I decided, well, okay, let me look and see what lenses I used. So I decided, okay, my 85mm 1.8, I really loved my old 85, not 1.8, 1.4. However, that lens started to get fungus. And so, as a result, I had to eventually sell it for next to nothing. So of my original kit, the only thing that I kept, really and truly, was my 50mm 1.4 Nikon. So I'm going to walk through my kit. So my kit now is a lot smaller, a lot lighter, because I have refined my style and I know exactly what I want to use on any particular wedding day and which lenses I love to use. So without further ado, let me go into my kit and I'm going to walk you through what I use and what I love. So first thing, remember this guy? I hope the camera, right. So this is, of course, a Nikon Z5. Well, actually, this is a new one. Good. And when I say new, it was used like new, or at least B&H had it used very good. However, when I called the B&H, I realized they probably mislabeled this, and I took advantage of it because it arrived with less than 400 shots on the shutter. Perfect condition, still smelling new in the box with plastic and all of these things. So I got this, the Z5, and because I didn't want to have to be confused when I grab a camera, because what I was finding was that my muscle memory was kicking in. So I would have a Z5 on one hand and a D750 on the other, and muscle memory had me mixing up both cameras when I grabbed them. So I decided, yeah, time to get two of the same so that my fingers don't run into issues. So one Z5, well, the other one I'm filming on right now, so that one is on the tripod. And I did a whole video about that, so if you want, you can go back to that previous video. Then there is this guy. Probably I should move back my, right, got it right here. So this is the Sigma 85mm 1.4 art. Really beautiful lens, nice lens. I love it a lot. It does quite a lot of my work. Now remember I said I had an 85 1.4 before. It was the older version Sigma, and so we had to change it because it would not work on the Z line. Why did I not go for a Z 1.8? It was simply because I don't know, I kind of like the art lenses. I love the image that I get from them. I'm not saying that the Nikon 85 1.8 is a bad lens. From all the reviews I've seen, it's a really beautiful lens. However, for me, this was perfect. I loved it. I love the image out of my old 85, my old Sigma 85, and so getting a Art 1.4 was a natural step. Of course, when I compare the images from this to my old 1.4, this is a huge step up. Now, I'm not sure if my old 85, because of the fungus, it was actually affecting the image quality. I think it was, because I'm realizing when I'm comparing images from this lens compared to the old one, that images are not as contrasty. Sometimes they are not as sharp. This down at 1.4 is perfectly sharp, very sharp. I have no issues, no problem with this lens whatsoever, and it remains on my camera 95% of a wedding day. So the next lens in my current bag is the old trusty Nikon 50mm 1.4. This is the only lens that I actually kept from my previous kit. So I really totally changed over all of my glass and my whole kit. This lens was the only lens that I kept. Very nice lens, very sharp in the center. I think the corners are a little bit soft, and at 1.4 it is a little soft. At first I thought the softness was due to the D750, because I was using this on a D750 and a D600 and a D7000, and I said probably, you know, I would have fine-tuned this lens. I'm kind of, you know, like that with my old gear. So the lens was fine-tuned, but I never quite got it to perfection at 1.4. Now, do I shoot everything at 1.4? No. My general range is somewhere between 2 and 2.8. 1.4, it's good to have that extra stop. What I'm finding, however, on my Z5, both of them, is that really and truly at 1.4 this lens is not perfect. However, it has some character. Am I going to still keep it around? I'm not too totally sure just yet. Will I get the Nikon Z50 1.8? Probably, but for now this is in my kit and it remains there. We're back again. So if you notice that my field of view changed, it's because I had to change lenses to actually show you this guy. So after my 50, next lens that I have in my arsenal is the Sigma 24 to 35 f2. Let me see if I can get that in focus. Yes, it's in focus right there. Beauty of a lens, extremely sharp. Here's how I got this particular lens. I was debating, going back and forth, whether I should get a 35 1.4 or 1.8 or a 24. And there was a lot of debate. And I posed the question to some photographers in a local group, and then someone suggested the Sigma 24 to 35 f2 is a really good option for someone like you. And I looked into it. Only downside of this thing is heavy, literally heavy. However, on a wedding day, this lens stays on my camera 75% of the time. It is just amazing. And probably going to put up some images of what it can do. This lens is just beautiful. It is really beautiful. Focus throw is a bit short. It's not a big throw, so that's, let me see if we can get that in focus. Let me see. Camera apparently decides that it's going to stick on my face today. So, come on, stay on. No, it's okay. So apparently it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to go back. It doesn't want to go on the lens. Anyhow, the focus throw is really short. At f2, it gives some really beautiful images. Great in low light, especially if I'm dealing with a dimly lit room with brides. This is beautiful and really captures some really nice, do I want to say wide angle images. So, of course, the other lens I want to get after that would be either the Sigma 135-1.8 or the Sigma 105 1.4. I'm not exactly sure which one of those I'm going to get yet. And that's all because what my wife and I have started to realize is that because of COVID, weddings have now become a lot smaller, so it's in a smaller space, so longer lenses are not really needed as much. Even when we were doing weddings with 200-300 people as guests, we didn't really need a wedding, or we didn't really need extremely long lenses, unless we were shooting in some cathedral where the priest didn't want you anywhere close to the altar and all of these things. But with the pandemic, those things have sort of changed. So those lenses that particular lens, we'll have to see how that goes for the rest of the year before we decide which one to get. So right after these, what's also in my bag would be the Godox, if you're in America, Flashpoint or Godox 8300 strobe. Actually, we have two of these. So one is here in my hand, the other one is providing some extra lighting for me. If you're wondering about the blue band around this is so that when we are shooting weddings, I can easily look across and figure out, without having to walk across, which one is group A, which one is group B. So this particular one is always group A and the other one is always group B. I find that this light gives a lot of power for its size. I originally had 8200s with the adapter to combine it, the B2 adapter to give you 400 watts. But after a while I found it was big, bulky, heavy, two of them along with the adapter on a wedding day, and I didn't really need it. So got the 8300s instead, and I am so much more happier with these, especially since we are using the Godox modifiers, which fit directly onto this mount. Wow, those soft boxes are small, really small. If you are like me and starting to look at weight and size of your kit, this is a lifesaver indeed. Trust me on this. This is a lifesaver. Of course, added to that would be, of course, triggers. Right. Something else that is also in my pack, excuse my squeaky office chair, is the Sekonic light meter. I know everyone is saying with mirrorless you can see the exposure, and yes you can, and that's perfect, but this is a remnant from my pre-mirrorless day. I still love it simply because, especially when you're doing studio work and you want to be extra precise, this comes in really handy. Sometimes I do some studio work and this comes in really handy with setting up my lighting ratio. So if I want to get a 2-to-1 lighting ratio or 3-to-1, just to be sure that my lighting ratio is absolutely perfect. And I'm going to show you what that looks like with some images that I would have done for some of my students at graduation. This is a charm. I mean, this is old hidden gem. I know there are some newer photographers who would laugh at me. Young guys, younger ones, I still keep this in my bag. And then, of course, The oldest of the oldest. I don't know why I keep these things around. These are two Yongnuo. I don't know if anybody remembers Yongnuo speed lights. They don't ever really get used because I sort of use my 8300s as hall lighting when we do receptions. So the 8300s are mounted on stands and in different parts of the room, and they provide me with all the lighting I need for a reception. So these are a bit redundant, but there, just in case something happens. And all of that, along with adapters and everything, stands, well, the stands would go somewhere else, reflectors, everything, fits in this Vanguard 46. This bag, let me tell you, has been on a lot of plane flights, has been literally all over, and the only thing that has shown its way is the handle. Other than that, it is amazing. I remember there was one night we were out shooting, and for whatever reason, I don't know what happened, for whatever reason, my camera bag was actually under a spout that was dripping water, and it dripped all over the camera bag and it did not soak through. So whatever material this is made of, Vanguard, you all did a really good job with this. It was only halfway into the shoot I realized that water was dripping onto the bag and all the equipment inside the bag was dry. Right? So guys, that's a sneak peek as to what's in my camera bag, besides tripods and some other little things. Of course, that's it really and truly. There is nothing else more in my bag, all simply because I have gone to a much smaller and lighter kit. I knew what my style was, and I worked to suit with my style and how I shoot. Yeah, having more gear does not necessarily make you a better photographer. Understanding and knowing how to use the gear that you have makes you a better photographer. Anyhow, I'm Darren, your friendly neighborhood wedding photographer, and this is Grey Heat Photography. Bye now.